Welcome.
Thank
uh,
you so much.
no problem. And Dana is the founder of Foundations for Freedom. And I would love for you, if you can just give us a quick overview of who you are and what Foundations for Freedom is about.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I was just thinking that so much has changed from our dining room to now Dr. Pamela.
Oh,
Hello.
yes, that's right. Yes, and I still have the
And it's
exercise
only
clothes.
getting better. It's only getting better
Thank
every
you.
day. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
for the past 27 years, I've had the pleasure of teaching etiquette and image. And as a result of working with literally thousands of women and girls, I've known forever that I've had a calling to strengthen them, to be in the trenches with them. The past 9 years has been a deep dive in the eradication of human trafficking. And my
Wow.
friend Martha Love asked if 9 years ago, if I was familiar with it. I had never heard of the term human trafficking.
Hmm.
And she said, I think you should come to this meeting. This is something that you would be interested in. I began to learn and just ask, how can my business of etiquette and image connect with the eradication of human trafficking?
Wow.
And then I was in a classroom at that time, and I was working with 15 girls. I asked the question, how many of you have been touched inappropriate?
Hmm.
14 of the 15 girls raised their hand and
Oh
began
my
to share
goodness.
their story.
Wow.
14 of
14 out of the
15
15.
girls. That was random.
Wow.
But I felt that was an important aha in my business and the connection of how do I continue to work with individuals that may be trafficked. Knowing now that vulnerability is one of the main threads that runs through individuals that are approached and who are trafficked. And it doesn't matter if you live in a 5-bedroom home or if your father isn't there and you're eating flour and water. The thread is vulnerability.
Wow.
So that's been 9 years. And then after the task force set with the county, when we moved with the city, they asked if I would become the chairperson, and we named it the Human Trafficking Task Force of Greater Milwaukee. But it gets better, because since then, which has been a wonderful experience, because we average about 40 people a meeting.
Wow.
And that the community response from all over, and it's growing. The past 3.5 years, I have founded Foundations for Freedom, Inc. And again, strengthening women and girls, reducing vulnerabilities, ultimately to eradicate human trafficking. And we do that through education, awareness, prevention, and advocacy.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, every day it's wind beneath my wings. It's been fantastic.
That is amazing. I think you answered all the questions I have for you on today's show.
Oh, hi.
No.
No, come on, doctor.
No, that is so powerful, and no, what you said generated more questions. Trust me, and so that is amazing, and I'm looking forward to learning more about this, and even honestly finding out what I can do, even via this show to aid in that. That's always been something I've been interested in delving into and finding out where I can assist in this particular issue.
Thank you.
Sitting next to me is Miriam Frost, and she is the owner of Stellar Power Yoga. And I have been kind of paying attention to what you've been doing on via social media. And I think, you just opened this studio, and it looks absolutely amazing. And I know the healing power that yoga has. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to be here, is because there's a lot of misconceptions about yoga, and I really want to hear about what you're doing in the community and how this actually impacts people's lives. We have to go to trending topics. So as soon as we go, we're done with our trending topics. We'll come back to Miriam and hear more about what Miriam does.
Primary election. Lack of diversity. Gas prices.
Michael Jackson. Trending topics.
Okay, so trending this week, we've got a combination of political news, and then we've got some sports news. And so one of the obviously biggest pieces of news that's happened over the last 5 days is the white supremacist rally that took place in Charlottesville, Charlottesville, Virginia. And there were a lot of injuries, dozens injured, one died. Very tragic, and she was run over by a man who identifies with the white supremacist movement, and he plowed into a group of counter protesters, and there's a lot of different ways that we can look at that. I kind of see them as standing up for the peace and what's good about humanity, those who were out there. Although they were not necessarily painted with that picture by the statements of our president, who said that, everybody, we need to look at all sides, and all sides are responsible. In my personal opinion, it is... it paints everybody with the exact same brush, which, is problematic, because now we are saying that it is okay, and it's perfectly logical for a group of people to be out there saying that they don't want to be replaced, and that we are taking our country back, and it's really it is taking us back, honestly, with this kind of behavior. So that's one thing. Another thing is the opioid, and I'm sure many of you have heard this, but the opioid crisis is hitting America, and the government is now ready to combat it, and not necessarily in the way that they combated the drug issue in the 80s and 90s when people were put in jail for having a drug problem. Now there are programs that are being put in place to assist, to sympathize with, and I think that's great. But I also hope that we can continue to be on that vein of helping and being of assistance, rather than criminalizing people who have a problem. So that's the trending topics. We have many more in the second hour, so stay with us, and we'll be right back on the Live Exchange.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
Great leaders aren't born. They're made, and not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and joining me here, we have on the phone Ms. Dana World-Patterson, and then we also have sitting next to me, owner of Power, oh gosh.
Power Yoga.
Yes, yoga. We have Miriam Frost sitting next to me. So would you mind just telling us a little bit about what you do and your studio?
Absolutely. Thank you, Pamela, for having me. I think it's, especially in this topic here for community healers, I think it's very important to me and what I'm trying to establish in the community as well in different cultures of what we're bringing. So let me start off by saying our studio, yes, we teach yoga, but we are not in the business of yoga. And when I first brought my partners on, I mentioned this to them because there's so many people out there teaching yoga,
Right.
Which is beautiful and fantastic. But I wanted to take a different approach to it. So we do not teach, the business is not based around yoga. We are amazing teachers at yoga. But the premise of our business is to teach people to empower people.
I love it.
So that they empower themselves so they can be better and better each and every day. I came into this business, fitness industry for many years, corporate for many years. So and raised two boys, athletes. I saw this as an opportunity to help people, to empower people. Just as you mentioned a few moments ago about the different things that's going on in the world with the race. I look at it as race riots, and when I look at yoga as a tool to help heal some of that hurt and suffering, I talk a lot about yoga not having any color. I talk about love not having any color. And also you mentioned about the opioids.
Yeah.
There's so many people out here that's very depressed, even though they, they hide it with insecurity and pain and hurt and trauma from whether this going on in their lives now or in their past. So they bring that from their childhood to their adulthood, and you see all these horrible things coming out of people, and then they turn to other solutions like opioids or
Right.
drugs or stuff like that, instead of just sitting with themselves and figuring out what's going on so that they can start to heal from the inside out.
I love that, from the inside out. And that's the thing and that's why and not just me, many people take issue with criminalizing addictions where we need to be healing from the inside out. And that's the work that I also hear that Dana is doing, healing from the inside out. I think that might be the common thread for today's show. I'm curious to know from both of you, in light of the things that are going on with regards to the race wars that are happening, is there something that the work that you do in some way addresses that or helps to kind of ease the pain of what's going on in our communities?
Absolutely. The environment that we've created is of all cultures. We honor each other, each and every class. We created an environment where everyone is comfortable and everyone feels welcome. We don't camouflage it or cover it with smoke screens. We are authentic in what we say. When we speak, we close our eyes because we like to feel exactly the authenticity that's coming out of our spirit and our soul, and we're sharing it with others so that people can learn to believe in trusting others as well as themselves.
Wow. Dana, do you
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree that the work that we do is important for everyone.
Yeah.
When we started, we were beating the drum saying, not in our neighborhood, not in yours. Because we knew it was not indicative just to inner city black girls with no father who were poverty stricken. We're
Right.
talking about now a $150 billion industry.
Wow.
So there's just no way that we can just focus on one group of people when the borders have been erased. So when we're out there with our sleeves rolled up, the fight is for everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
I have a premise that we have been segregated for so long and still segregated. I don't believe in segregating ourselves. I believe in allowing in so that we can learn, allowing in, healing from the inside. When I talk in my classes, sometimes people say, I don't know where you get that from. It sounds so good, it sounds so powerful, and it just comes to me. I feel like I'm a messenger, and if that message lands in your spirit, that means that it belongs to you. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
But I like to share this premise that our challenges, we're always going to have challenges. But never to allow the challenges, whether they're intentional or unintentional, to determine our life's purpose and destination.
Wow.
So we're looking beyond everything that's in front of us instead of allowing ourselves to be stuck right inside of that challenge. Let your vision be so further away from that challenge that you can see clear on the other side instead of being stuck with what you're dealing with at that moment.
Yeah, in my book I call it being stuck in the muck.
Yes.
You're just in the muck and you can't
Yes,
see
ma'am.
anything else beyond that.
Yes,
Yeah.
you get blinded, and then now you harbor hurt and pain, insecurities, depression.
Right.
Because your vision has became so small. Keep the vision large, even when you're dealing with challenges.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Okay,
Yes, I do too, and this is so interesting. May I interject?
Yeah, well, we're going to go into the research, so you want to say it before or after?
May I just say it very
Go
quickly?
ahead,
It
yes.
ties in. I
Jump in.
took my first yoga class this past Tuesday.
Really?
And yes,
Love
I
it.
absolutely loved it.
Yes.
From the premise of physician heal thyself, that we're constantly putting out, and the work that we do is so intrinsic that I was like, I have to do something for my own body and mind. I work pretty much on the spirit, but it's all connected.
Oh, gosh,
So
absolutely.
it was a wonderful class. So thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you. That sounds so good.
Well, we're going to get into the research, and I would actually love to learn more about your experience, your first experience in this class, right after the research.
In the interest of science, 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 science.
Okay, so today's science is, it's based on the work of Robert K. Greenleaf. And for those of you who are not familiar with him, he is sort of the father of the concept of servant leadership, and from an academic standpoint. So servant leadership is, it basically begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve, and they want to serve first. So the conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. So they want to serve the community, they want to serve the world first, and then they realize, okay, I have to lead in order to be in this initiative, but the heart is at serving. The leader first and the servant first are two extreme types. So you've got the leader first, who's, I'm all about leading, and then you've got the person who is servant first, and I'm going to serve those who are following. Between them are shades and blends of, a variety of different types of leadership. A servant leader focuses primarily on the growth and well-being of people and the communities to which they belong, while traditional leadership generally involves the accumulation of exercise of power by being at the top of the pyramid. Servant leadership is very different. It shares power, but it puts the needs of the people first, and it helps people develop and perform as highly as possible. So it is a much more collaborative approach to leadership. And so we're going to talk about this a little bit because I see servant leadership at the forefront of what these two women who we're speaking with today are doing, and I would love to get their input on servant leadership as it applies to their lives. But first, we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, beyond differences in I Keep Safe, we're looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.org. nourishment.com.
Your health is at stake. Diabetes, gout, high blood pressure, inflammation, and joint pain, even weight loss. It's time to end your battle. The Abundant Life Movement is dedicated to the building of generational health by transforming your water with the power of alkaline to improve hydration and fight against acidic and unhealthy conditions in the body. Here's a testimonial from Linda Rogers Brown and Pamela McMillan.
2011, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had no pain and no symptoms associated with that illness. It's a silent killer. I was introduced to Extreme X2O alkaline water, and within 2 days of drinking it, I was off all my pain medicine, and now we're 6 years strong, no chemo, no radiation, no cancer.
I am a 3-time cancer survivor. I was born with thyroid cancer. By being on the alkaline products allowed me to be able to cope currently with colon cancer. Now I'm able to function and be more mobile within 3 days of being on the product.
Extreme X2O, when the water you're drinking is damaging your health. Extreme X2O. For more info, AbundantLifeMovement.com or call 910-527-2260.
Our freedom and security are made possible through the service and sacrifice of our military and first responders. The Gary Sinise Foundation provides many outreach programs supporting these brave men and women. Join us. Donate at GarySiniseFoundation.org.
If you're looking for that ratchet, you're in the wrong place. It's the nation's urban internet station, Sensation Station Network.
All right, welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and joining me today, we have Miriam Frost. She is the owner of Stellar Power. I get Power and Stellar mixed up. Okay. Stellar Power Yoga. And we have Dana World-Patterson, who is joining us on the phone from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And she's the owner of, what is the name of the foundation again? I don't have it in front of me.
Foundations for Freedom, Inc.
There we go. Foundations for Freedom, Inc. I lost my little note page. So I was just sharing a little research about Robert Greenleaf's theory on leadership, which is the concept of servant leadership. And one of the things that he said, caring for persons, the more able and the less able serving each other, is the rock upon which a good society is built. Whereas, until recently, caring was largely person to person, now most of it is mediated through institutions, often large, complex, powerful, and impersonal, not always competent, and sometimes corrupt. If a better society is to be built, one that is more just and more loving, one that provides greater creative opportunity for its people, then the most open course is to raise both the capacity to serve and the very performance as servants of existing major institutions by new regenerative forces operating within them. So, what he's saying here is that we've kind of lost the human touch when it comes to servant leadership, and we've kind of delved it out into organizations to handle things. And so even within organizations, as I see from the two of you, you still have the capacity to touch people in a personal way. Curious to know how servant leadership has played out in the work that you do.
Well, for me, I think because we're a new studio, it's being born with us. The partner instructors that I have on board with me, I think the premise came from me why we were creating this environment, because some of them had taught different places, but I wanted them to get an understanding of what I was trying to create, and it wasn't an individual thing. When you're working with several instructors, teachers, you're dealing with a lot of leadership heads.
Right.
So it takes a mindful approach to take all that amazing leadership and not squeeze it down, but lift it up.
Oh, wow.
So by giving them empowerment to do certain things and helping them understand the best practices, what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
To increase the trust in the people that's coming in, we need to be unified in what we're trying to give to the community. And sometimes it could be a little bit challenging because, remember, we have leadership minds. They're teachers. They are giving.
Right.
So I think by me just bringing in the best practices that I've learned, pointing out certain things that work and that doesn't work, and keeping them involved in what's going on, and not allowing them to feel like they're suppressed in any kind of way.
Yes.
For example, some teachers in some studios, they're not allowed to teach other places. I don't believe in that. Teach wherever you can. Each one teach one. The more you teach other people, that's the greater you're going to become for what we're doing in our studio. I don't want to suppress your information, because then that leadership, that hands-on and connection, person to person, human to person, goes away, because now they feel like they're restricted.
Right.
So if you restrict people, then they're not, and don't empower them to expand, then you're letting these companies and studio owners and them taking over and being very mechanical in the approach of trying, instead of being a community healer.
Right.
So
I love that. And what are your thoughts, Dana?
When I consider servant leadership, it's truly the will within the will. That's where everything comes from. And it's the only way that I'm able to get up every day with wind beneath my wings. I'm thinking about, yes, the preservation of self, but also how can I empower others so that, because eradicating human trafficking is going to happen, it will be continuing long after, I've transitioned. So it's empowering others that have PTSD, that, and when the resources are limited, to still be looking within themselves and how can you continue to give. And I'm telling you, God has a way of working it out where when there's no money, there's still, because we had a mindset to give, the doors continue to be open. So with servant leadership being in the forefront of my mind, how can I improve my community?
Right.
How can I, and this is really where one less came in to play as one of our mantras and tags. I said, well, if we reach one person every day, because this is how we're going to eat the elephant.
Yes.
One less victim in Milwaukee is one less victim in the world. So my mind is still global. It's still international. But as we're reaching one person at a time, doing the best that we can, then that's eradication. One less person, one day at a time.
I totally agree. I had one of my brothers in New York. He, when I started this, didn't have a whole lot of funding at all, but I had a lot of support. The people had came to my classes, and my brother, he sent me some money. He said, "Here's some money. I want you to, go with this dream." And one of the things that he said to me was, I want you to, keep pushing this forward so that you can help people one class at a time. And each time I step into that room, I intend to capture every person in that room.
Wow.
And send them a message. And it's not, again, it's not for me. I'm the vessel for that message to get through to me, to you. And you take that and you use it in your life's journey to continue to persevere and move forward.
Wow. I love that. I love that. And that's the way that I can better even approach the classes I teach. I teach in the university, and my approach has been more of an overall. By the end of this class, this is what I want people to do. This is how I want it to be life changing. But to take it in small chunks, today's class, I want to accomplish this and accomplish that. I love that. That is amazing. We're going to get into this week's balance challenge.
Your balance with Dr. Pamela. Dr. Pamela. Dr. Pamela.
Okay, so this week's balance challenge it's a chapter in my upcoming book, shameless plug here, Secrets of the Obsessed. Love someone else to life. So I have a whole chapter on this concept. But a lot of times we learn so much about ourselves when we can love someone else to life. Somebody says, the term, I love you to death, well, I want you to love someone to life. So, and just taking from a quote from Elizabeth Gilbert, I absolutely love this quote. Those of us who are warm and dry and safe and well-fed must show up for those who are cold and wet and endangered and hungry. That's a rule of life. Every ethical and religious and spiritual tradition in the world agrees on that rule. That's Elizabeth Gilbert. And so I want you to find a way this week, one person if you're not already doing it. If you're already doing it, increase it by, a certain number of people. But one person that you can be intentional about loving them to life. That is your challenge for this week. So, anything you ladies want to add to that?
It kind of just puts me in the premise of thought. Sometimes I keep the serenity prayer with me all the time. I keep it in the studio because sometimes, we're only in control what the good Lord allows us to be in control of. But sometimes, you want to just help everyone. So sometimes, and some people say, maybe you just need to leave that one alone. But I'm defiant against that, and I just want to help that one person, even if they don't acknowledge it that day, and they're stubborn and they're hard, because not every class, everyone's going to come in with their guards down. You're going to have people that have their guards up, because they're used to being that way. But it's interesting because sometimes, you have that one person that you just want them to pull their guards down just so that you can put in just a little bit of goodness in them.
Yes.
And whether or not, I think I've come to terms now, whether or not they receive it at that moment or later on, as long as I know that I've done it and I put it out there, I feel accomplished.
I love it. Wow. Wow. So, and Dana, any thoughts about the, either loving someone to life or even having the whole concept of somebody having their guard up, and how do you break through to that? I'm sure that's something you've had to deal with quite a bit.
That the word would be intentionality, being intentional about why you're in the space. And I was thinking that this can be superficial but intentional as well as within the work that we do. Loving someone to life could be paying attention to them, looking them in the eye, calling them by their name, saying good morning, smiling. We just don't know where people are. And even those of us that come dressed up every day and looking as if we're ready, if we can spend time intentionally by pausing, not being in our phones, giving people undivided attention, you just never know how that can continue to break the ice. And then within the work that we do, you can't push anyone further than where they want to go. So I believe that being consistent and genuine in the work that you do and how we interact goes miles beyond. It paves the way for the work that we do. Where a person will know that I can trust and I can depend on the work that they're doing at Foundations for Freedom. I can depend on consistency. I can depend on a smile. I can depend on them going the extra mile. I believe that we're loving them to life. Some plant, some water. God always gives the increase, and that increase is what I'm trusting will remain. So we're just planting seed. We're planting seed by loving a person to life.
That's beautifully said. Wow. Thank you. We're going to go to break. When we come back, I want to delve into some of these. I know you guys have some stories to tell, so start thinking about your stories. We'll be right back.
You use Tearless Baby Shampoo because it's gentle on your baby's eyes. You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You always test the bath water to make sure it's not too hot. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You make sure she wears a helmet when she rides her bicycle. You put on his sunscreen, even when he's embarrassed his friends will see. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Is your child facing the right way in the car seat? Is the seat too big or too small? How do you know when it's time to move your child into the next type of seat? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school? Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions? No. Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school? Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul. No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework. Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review? No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized. I think I understand. Oh, good. Finding best potatoes for French fries. No! Russet, fingerling, Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Viola Davis. Did you know that 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger? Growing up, I was one of those kids. But we can solve this. When we make breakfast happen for kids in our neighborhood, we have the power to end childhood hunger, create bigger, brighter school days, and healthier minds and bodies. Go to hungeris.org and lend your time or your voice.
We're hungry for more.
A message from the Albertsons Companies Foundation and the Entertainment Industry Foundation.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And so a new American industry has been born.
Sensation Station Network.
All right, welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and we are talking about community healers. And joining me today is Miriam Frost. She is the owner of Stellar Power Yoga. And I also have Dana World-Patterson, who's on the phone with me, and she is the founder of Foundations for Freedom. So, before we got on, went to break, we talked about this week's Balance Challenge, which is to love someone to life. I'm curious to know, and Dana, maybe you want to start first, but can you maybe share something that may have been moving, or something you never thought you would have experienced in this work that you're doing, and that was involved involved loving someone to life?
Oh my! Every day, I'm honestly, it's every day I'm learning.
Wow!
I'm the teacher and I'm the student, and to see, for instance, because working with individuals that have sexual trauma, we know that it's a lifelong process of healing. And sometimes, if you can imagine having to service someone that you don't know, a complete stranger, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day to meet a quota, that then you take the money and you give it to someone else. The affliction on the brain. But God in his awesomeness, how he helps us to protect, and then the intentionality of being consistent and really being selfless, because you never know when a person may be triggered.
Right.
And you can't take it personal. But I received an email where someone that we're working with just really flipped, and I'm like, what's going on? And I reached out, and there was nothing. I called blindly, and she picked up. And she said, Dana, I am so sorry that I did that. I said those things. You didn't deserve it. And, that was just an aha moment. It's like, this is what it's about. That's one step forward for her to be able to admit, I was in a place and I displaced on you because that wasn't for you. It was some anger that I was feeling somewhere else.
Yes.
And it's just constant, just hanging with people. Because the longer you stay around and the brain begins to heal and get to a normal state, these triggers happen, but you just remain consistent, love them through it, then that's one more day, another hurdle, and you just keep moving. Wow. So I'm telling you, the mindset is very intentional, that this is about growth for someone else.
Right.
That you're really strengthening a community when you help one person.
Absolutely. Because once you help that one person, you're putting her in position. It may not happen tonight, it may not happen tomorrow, but you're putting her in position to then empower somebody else. down the line.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you've probably seen that happen, just kind of that ripple effect that takes place. What about you, Miriam?
I think several things come to mind. One of the things with yoga is the more you practice, the more you become aware of your surroundings, and that awareness becomes power.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, some people may not use that power for good intention, and they may use it for, good intention. But sometimes it does get out of control, and some people may use it for not so good intention, and they may want to come back around after they realize that that wasn't the way to go. My focus is specifically on, again, not really taking it personal, not letting that challenge. My vision is so far beyond what's in front of me.
Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah, that it's, I accept you. If you come back and you apologize and you find your way and you realize that this way, the way that you went wasn't so good and it was malicious and mean and intentional, and then you come back, I'm okay with that. I will embrace you, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm doing, is to create a platform so that people can, naturally people are going to make mistakes.
Right.
But not to get too involved and allow it to penetrate into my spirit, but also be there as a support. When someone does come back and they feel like that they want to be back into this space of goodness, I accept you back in.
Right.
So I don't emphasize a whole lot on staying in that negative place, but I embrace you when you come back.
I love it. Oh, that's so beautiful. And how do you, and Dana, because you shared this story about the young woman who, lashed out and then came back, how do you prepare yourself to get to that point where you're able, and this is really for both of you, but where you're able to embrace somebody after that's happened? Because, that's not natural for us. Naturally, we want to protect ourselves from the pain. But how do you get to a point where you're able to accept the pain of the work?
Well, with me, this is I am a strong believer that my purpose in life has nothing to do with another human being. It's between me and God. Right. So I look at it from that perspective. What I accept and what I don't accept, I check in with my higher power to make sure that I'm not putting myself in a position that's going to sacrifice the work that I'm doing that I believe that is comfortable with between me and God.
Right.
That's where I find my solace. It's between me and God, not the human being. However, there are times that, things can come up that you have to eliminate out of your spirit, because then you can't do the work that God has intended for you to do.
Absolutely, yes. And what do you think, Dana? Dana, are you there?
I am.
Okay.
It's truly day by day, and the work that is done in private. It's the work that's done in your closet, in your own personal closet of acceptance. And when you know that you've done your best and you continue to show up ready, as they say.
Yes.
That was hurtful to receive those words, but I know what I've signed up for. And that it was just one of those moments. So it's not taking it personally, even though I felt the blow. This is life in general. You feel the blows and you bounce up like that clown that we used to hit when we were children.
Yes.
You hit it and it'll fall down and pop right back up.
Yep.
That's the life that I signed up for. You get those blows, you feel them, and then you pop back up and you keep going. So that's why the yoga is so important, and the daily meditation and being in the Word of God and really accepting yourself and the space that you're in for healing others and staying whole yourself. If I walked around with every hole showing from the punches that I've received, they'll be like, go put that rag over in the corner.
Absolutely.
There would just be no way I could do the work that I'm doing.
Right.
but, just continuing to move forward the best way I can, and self-healing, as well as patting myself on the back when it's a great day. It's like,
yes. And
this has been good work.
Yes.
This was great. I touched someone today.
Right. So it's a well-rounded self-care. It's preparing, it's taking care of yourself in the midst of, it's healing yourself, and it's applauding yourself when, so it's a full,
Oftentimes during the end of the class, we go into what we call Shavasana. And Shavasana is when you lay and you actually reap the benefits of the work that you have done, whether it's within that class, within that day, that year, the century. We don't take time to reap the benefits of the challenges that we conquer. And just many folks, too, I want to clarify, some people stay away from yoga because they feel like it's a religion-based. It's not.
And we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop you right there just because we have Love Letter coming up, and I definitely want to talk about that. Yes.
Love Notes with Dr. Pamela.
So this love letter comes from Rashawn, and here's what she's saying, and maybe the two of you can kind of help Rashawn out with this scenario. She says, Dear Dr. Pamela, I wear my emotion on my sleeve, and I also take my emotions and pain, I take on the emotions and pain of other people. It gets overwhelming because when I hear about children getting abused or hungry families or victims of violence, I want to save them. I want to save everyone. I feel guilty because I get to enjoy a comfortable life, and I know that I cannot give everyone what I have. How can I get over this guilt and also make a real difference in the world that actually makes an impact? Who wants to jump on that one?
Wow.
It's a big question.
Well, that's me. That's me in a nutshell. That's the reason why I keep the Serenity Prayer.
I love
because it gives me the courage to, take care of the things that I can, the wisdom to know the difference of the things that I can take care of and what I can't take care of.
Yes.
So I have to recite this to myself because I want to save everybody.
Yeah.
And I do that with my family. I do that with everybody. Like, my instructors will tell you, my partners will tell you, okay, Miriam, enough.
Yes.
I can think of one now. And he would say, like, come on, all right, it's enough. But I am a caregiver at nature. Care for humanity, care for the world. What I say to that is pace yourself. Recite to yourself, you can only put out what you can.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that you're going to get instant response or instant solution to something when you put it out there for someone. However, you take baby steps and you plan and prepare and take care of the things that are important to you, but never allow it to consume you, because if you do, then you won't have enough strength to be able to do the things at a greater capacity, greater possibilities, because now you're consumed with something that is not giving you enough freedom to really do great things.
Absolutely. Wow, I love that. Any follow-up to that, Dana?
Yes, because I'm the same way, and I believe that you have to care deeply to do the work that I do.
Yes.
And I was sharing with my friend, I said, if I ever get to a place in this work where it doesn't matter, where I'm callous, where I'm not moved, I'm forever crying, because of the just feeling, wanting to walk with a person to wholeness. And I think it's important. But when there's no guilt involved, we've all been given this hand in life for a reason.
Yes.
And if she has enough to share, I think she should share. And, just really be still enough to say, okay, what have I been created to do?
The stillness, yes.
And then move forward. Take that step. Move forward. What am I created to do? That's where she's going to find the most joy and peace. And really, that's where she's going to soar in giving back, in listening to what am I created to do.
Wow.
And with her excess, there are a lot of us, our nonprofits, we're here, and we need that excess. So please reach out, write a check.
Absolutely.
Go and volunteer.
Yes.
There's just a ton of things that individuals can do, but being still and being in the right place
Yes.
is important.
There's so much that can be done, and it is overwhelming. And I think that whole idea of being still and really thinking about what is it, what can I do, what's my contribution, and focusing it in on maybe an area that you've been personally touched with or passionate about, maybe will make it feel less overwhelming that I have to save everybody in the world in every aspect, and allow you to focus in on those areas that are most important. So Dana, we are coming to the end of the first hour, and I want to make sure that we know how to reach you and how we can support the work that you do. How can we connect with you?
Oh, thank you so much. My website is foundations with an S, the number 4, freedom.org. My email is contact@foundations, the number 4, freedom.org, or you can call the office at 414-323-7273.
Great.
And it would be my pleasure to continue the dialogue with anyone that would like to continue in this work or that has been affected by human trafficking or that would like to prevent. You know, prevention is worth more than a pound of cure.
Absolutely.
So I am happy to assist in any way.
Well, and I would love to have you back because I want to do a show fully on this topic of human trafficking, and there's so much to cover, and there's no way to give it justice with the context of this show. So we need to do a show focused completely on this topic. So I would love to have you back for that.
It would be my pleasure because when I'm speaking to my cousins in Atlanta, they talk about how prevalent it is there and that Atlanta is a hub.
It's
and
bad here.
We know that little old Milwaukee is considered a hub, a place where temps learn.
Yes.
So let's talk about it. Let's just bust up everything that has been hidden.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be right back.
Sensation Station Network.
Welcome back to the Live Exchange, and you've joined us for the second hour where we exchange compelling dialogue around love, politics, and intellect. Today, we've been discussing what it means to heal our communities by turning pain into passion. With so much pain in our communities, the world needs healers in every corner to fight the spread of hate, to bring nourishment to those in need, to heal the body and the mind, to fight trafficking, to do whatever it is that we are moved to do. So today's guests are helping to share what it is that they've learned in their own journeys. The first hour we had Miss Dana World-Patterson, and this hour I have joining me, and we also had Miriam Frost, and she's joining me again for this hour, and she is the owner of Stellar Power Yoga. We also will be having on the phone Coach Mernice Oliver. She's the president of Mernice Oliver Coaching and Consulting, and so we're really, and as soon as we get her on the phone, then we'll wrap her into this conversation. But we are, as Dana just kind of wrapped up, she was talking about the work that she's doing in Milwaukee and how sex trafficking in this, particularly in Atlanta, is very, it's rampant. It's a huge problem. It's a hub, and it's hard work to do. Is there any intersection, and I really wanted to get into yoga with her in terms of, because I know she was talking about how she had tried it for the first time and how it really impacts the work that she does. So I would love to talk about the work that you do with yoga, and as well as the misconceptions that people have about it. I mean, I've seen headlines in schools where people bring it to the schools, which I think is fabulous, and then parents will backlash against it because they think it's a religious practice. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's when you first are introduced to yoga, it does take you back because you're not sure what it is. Most people don't know what it is. When I
Right.
first came into yoga, I took a yoga class in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was more, I was a fitness instructor for a few years, and I went out looking for different teaching methods of fitness to bring back to my instructors. So I landed on a power yoga class. Yes, it was physical. It challenged me. I couldn't even finish it. So that made me come back some more. 'Cause,
Okay,
you know,
you're competitive.
yes, that's a challenger in me, yeah. So, but what sustained me was what I was able to do after I was challenged physically.
Okay.
I realized that the poses had me challenged emotionally and mentally as well. And then I found myself often in prayer, especially during the rest periods and towards the end of class, the beginning of class. I realized how much it could help heal, and that area that I was looking for to bring to my members that I already had in the fitness world. I realized that that was a perfect marriage, a perfect forum to add in so much good stuff that I couldn't do in a kickboxing class or a cycle class.
Right.
And, you know, I found myself in prayer oftentimes, and I ignored anything that, any conception that I had, preconception about what yoga was all about. So I took it as a personal crusade between me and my God, right? And I did my training, and I learned that there are so many religions. There are so many,
Yes.
right? So yoga is every religion. You choose the one that you want to be.
Wow, I love that.
You know, you pick.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with being, being aligned with one specific religion.
Or turning your back on another.
That's correct.
Right.
It's what you gain out of it. You know, there's some new instructors that are getting training in different places in Atlanta, and they're going to be teaching for me. Some have already graduated. They're going to be teaching. And I share this premise all the time. You're not giving up anything. You're only gaining. And one of the things that we like to do, like if we say something like Shavasana, we let you know it's a resting pose. We explain what it is.
Right.
Because now you're listening to this term that you've never heard before.
Right.
Anything that sound namaste. We say namaste. I honor you, my brilliant light inside of me honors your brilliant light. My teacher honors your teacher. We explain what this means before someone actually, shares it or says it, because we want to educate as well as teach how to empower yourself. And we don't want to impose on anyone's religion at all. We just want to build from the inside.
I love that. Well, when we come back, we have Coach Mernice Oliver on the line, who will tell us about the work that she does in coaching and consulting. And we're going to talk about misconceptions about both fields, because there are lots of misconceptions about yoga and coaching. And so stay with us. We'll be right back on the Live Exchange.
Sensation Station Network.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a cold day.
I want to be a football
I want to
stadium.
be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
Vince Lombardi once said that it's hard to be aggressive when you're confused. Some of us think that taking our lives to the next level, both personally and professionally, is a confusing and complicated process. Guess what? It's not, and I can prove it. My book, Truisms, will show you how living your life by rules that are so self-evident and obvious, you'll say, I knew that. This powerful yet short, detailed bestseller is on sale right now, under $10. Go to michaelmcfadden.com. That's michaelmcfadden.com, and let truisms help you to the next level.
Great leaders aren't born. They're made, and not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
Sensation Station Network.
Radio 2, Atlanta. Primary election.
Lack of diversity.
Gas prices.
Michael Jackson. Trending topics.
All right, so trending this morning is, I don't know if many of you knew this because there's a lot of other news that's going on right now, so there's a lot of competition. But Taylor Swift was in, she had sued somebody. She took radio host David Mueller to court for alleged assault and battery. So they were doing a photo shoot, and at one point, he slipped his hand. She accused him of slipping his hand under her dress and basically touching her inappropriately and groping her. And she took that case to trial. She won. So not okay to do this. Not okay to do this. The other one is there's a lot of, I guess there's a lot of energy around the what's going on with the NFL and the fact that in the NFL, Colin Kaepernick has not been picked up by a team because he wouldn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Interesting, though, because I remember growing up and I remember that if you were Jehovah's Witness or you had another religious belief that you didn't have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So now you're being penalized for not doing so, for standing up for a particular statement. Interesting. So on the headline is that Jermichael's wife, Courtney, basically went in on him because Jermichael's been posting, basically saying that, criticizing Marshawn, who also kneeled during the national anthem, and Colin. So he was very critical of them. His wife writes this serves as a reminder, in case you have forgotten, you are black. The athletes, for most people, you are telling to sit down and shut up, are the very men that are protesting your safety and equality in a country that has nearly revoked the right based on your skin color. As a biracial mother of 4 black boys that have been left to be raised by a single mother, I have deep and desperate gratitude for those that use their platform to fight for our community's justice, safety, and equality. And it goes on, and I'm like, and she ends it by saying, I pray you will reevaluate your stance. Mm-hmm. She told him. And and a lot of people are saying, oh, it's a shame that a white woman has to tell you, a black man this. But you know what, you guys, this is not a black-white issue. To be honest, this is if and I had a friend of mine, Brooklyn, actually brought this to my attention earlier this week, and he said that it's not necessarily this, we've made this a black and white issue, but this is really an HR issue. If we are not able to, express our disdain for injustice on the job, and so if this impacts all athletes. So maybe your issue isn't the police brutality issue. Maybe your issue is about LGBT rights. Maybe your issue is about equal pay. Whatever that is, if you stand for that issue and you just so happen to be an athlete, then your rights, you will be silenced as well. So by not supporting Colin in whatever, whether or not you disagree with his stance on this issue, you're also, silencing yourself, because something is going to come up for you eventually. So those are just my thoughts.
Yeah. And, and it's almost like where he's being accused of doing something criminal.
Yeah.
And he didn't do anything criminal. He just represented what he believes in, and now he's being backlash for it.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because it was out of true integrity. It was out of true integrity and standing up to do something that he felt was the right thing to do, being a support, being, allowing a community of people to be acknowledged for the goodness and not the bad stuff that we see sometimes in the news.
Often,
And you know, and when we do something good, it's like, okay, it's bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
but when we do something bad, it's real bad.
Yeah, exactly,
You know,
exactly.
So it's just. It's
Well, and I want to
unfortunate.
make sure that we can bring Mernice into this. Mernice, if you have anything to say, I know I haven't introduced you yet, but I don't want to leave you out of this this conversation.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited.
So on the phone is Mernice Oliver, and Mernice Oliver, and she is the president of Mernice Oliver Coaching and Consulting. And she does a lot of work with people who are trying to start their businesses and get those businesses off the ground, want to improve their businesses. And I'm sure that your work also entails self-improvement as well, because you can't have a powerful business without getting yourself in line as well. So welcome, and thank you for joining us. Did you want to chime in on this, or you want to just move on?
My pleasure. I absolutely do, because I have a lot to say.
Okay,
about this.
chime in.
That I'm a wife,
Yes.
and I'm an African American man, and I have a 19-year-old son.
Yes.
That I've just sent off to college last week, as a matter of fact, for his sophomore year, and so this really resonates with me. And I agree with you. It's not a racial issue at all.
Right.
This is about a human rights issue.
Yes.
We have a right to thrive and to be successful and to own our own little piece of land so that we can build and create a legacy for our own lives.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the color of our skin. We have a right to thrive.
Yes.
So I've been waiting to say that
Yes.
for a few days. I'm like, we have a right to do that. And I don't need your permission. I don't need anyone's permission to thrive and to live and to kind of own my own little piece of land. It was given to me because I'm here.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No, this is good. Don't apologize, because and the thing is, honestly, the other groups of people, and I would just say Jehovah's Witness again, because those are the groups that I know have been, we are not standing up for the flag. They need to be standing for this issue too. They need to be saying, look, this guy, he's following what we've been doing for centuries. So, what's the problem? And the fact that we've made this a black and white issue really just, it sours, it saturates the true meaning of what this issue is truly about. And so
absolutely.
We have to go to break, and I promise you when we get back from break, we're going to delve into what it is that you do.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Fantastic.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He'd guide us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. I help people solve difficult problems every day, but one problem has me stumped: childhood hunger. Nearly 16 million children in America struggle with it. Luckily, the Feeding America network of local food banks collects surplus food, giving hope to hungry children and their families. But they need your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
I am an American soldier. I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place this first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined.
I am disciplined. Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I am an expert, and I am a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
Enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
There's strong, and there's Army strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
All right, welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and joining me today is Miriam Frost, and she is the owner of Stellar Power Yoga. And on the phone we have Mernice Oliver. She is the owner of Mernice Oliver Coaching and Consulting. And by the way, who is responsible for my face today? That is BBLA Cosmetics. They are responsible for the look on my face today. Welcome, Mernice Oliver. Thank you for joining us. Tell us, what is it that you do exactly?
Well, thank you for allowing me to really embark on this really exciting opportunity to join you and your listeners. So I wanted to say thank you first before I jump into anything at all. I don't take it for granted, that you're allowing me to come and talk with your community and to play on your playground. Hey. And so my sincere gratitude and thanks. Hi, Miriam.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. Well, yes, so I actually am the president and head coach of Mernice Oliver Coaching and Consulting. And so I work, my area of focus is really for women in the insurance and financial services. I've worked in the industry 20 plus years. And so I help women take their agency from just barely making it to a thriving agency. And how I do that is because I lived it. I went through it myself. I actually own 2 agencies myself. But I found that my niche, my expertise, my genius was actually in the mentoring and coaching of other women insurance agencies. And so I decided to create a life for myself rather than a corporate life and embark on this whole Mernice Oliver Coaching and Consulting. And so that's what I do in a nutshell. I help women build a business. Well, actually, let me back up. I help women create their best life first.
Okay.
Because as you said earlier, absolutely, you have to get your personal life together first. So we are a professional and personal development coaching company. And then I help them build their best agency.
Okay, great. I love it. Yeah, because, we have hot messes, walk through the doors sometimes wanting to start businesses. And it's like, well, you're a hot mess. So let's get you together first.
Yes.
Then, and we have and I use hot mess in a loving, lighthearted way. But, there are people who, they've got some serious insecurities that they're dealing with, self-hate, unsupportive spouses. There are a lot of things that people need to work through before they can really get to where it is they want to go. And they can do that simultaneously, but the work has got to be done. So,
absolutely.
So one of the things that Miriam brought up earlier was the misconception that people have of coaching and of yoga, and that people, they see it as a religious thing and therefore they don't partake in it. With coaching, there's misconceptions that, everybody's a coach. They just print something on their business cards and bam, they're a coach. How do you deal with the misconceptions? And do they present themselves to you? Do people ask questions like that?
Absolutely. All the time I get that. And I think for me, as a coach and consultant, I think it really is about the credibility. Where is your credibility lie? Are you coaching because that's the next and greatest thing that you saw on social media? Or is it something that you've been living, breathing for many years of your life?
Right.
I coach and consult with women in the insurance industry because I've been doing it for 20 plus years. I didn't just wake up yesterday and decide to put coach on my business card. And so, but there is a misconception of, everybody's a coach. No, not everyone is a coach. Now, many of us can take on that moniker, but I think it has to do with your credibility. And then lastly, where's your proof of work? You have to really have your own body of work to be able to show this is my area of expertise. This is where my genius lies. And so that's what actually qualifies me to be a coach and a consultant in this industry.
Right. And I checked your credentials. You got the credentials.
Good.
She didn't just slap something on a business card, and I get that too because, because I'm also a coach and I have a coaching school, and it is important for me to make sure that there's integrity in the profession. And so, as I'm sure is the case with Miriam and yoga, and making sure there's integrity in how this is being played out. So I have a question for you too. So
sure.
There is a common, and I didn't prepare either of you for this, so be honest about your thoughts on this. There is there's a common phrase that people say when somebody is going through a lot or struggling or stressing with something. Somebody will say, baby, and there's even a song. Baby, God will not put more on you than you can bear. God will not put more on you than you can bear. So I actually challenge that phrase a little bit. And I propose that a more appropriate and scripturally correct statement for someone suffering through a difficult situation is in order. I scoured the Bible. I did not find that particular phrase. What I did find was that we should carry the burdens of those who are suffering, that we should cast our cares and our burdens onto God, and that also that God will not put more temptation on us than we can bear. And so when I hear that scripture, or I hear that saying, because I can't call it a scripture unless I actually find the scripture, when I hear that saying, it's based on a scripture that talks about the level of temptation that's put on us, not necessarily having a load of burdens put on us and just, feeling overwhelmed. So what I'm thinking, my thought about this, is that this is really a challenge to the rest of us, that, our friends, families, neighbors, peers, they shouldn't have to bear their burdens alone. Instead of saying God won't put it more on us than we can bear, perhaps we should say, you know what, you've got a lot more on you than you can bear, therefore, I'm going to help carry those burdens with you. And we can understand, those of us who are carrying those burdens, that God is with us, that our loved ones are with us, and that our burdens ultimately serve a greater purpose, but that sometimes people do have more on them that they can bear. We have people who have died, we do have people who have totally been overrun and overcome by their burdens, especially when they've been left alone to do so. I ask this question because we are all in the position to help and to serve. And one of my concerns about statements like that or mindsets like that is that we just kind of say, baby, no, God won't put more on you than you can bear, pat them on the shoulder and keep going. But I struggle with that. So I just want to know your thoughts on that whole concept.
Okay.
Anybody? Sure. Silent.
Sure. I definitely have a thought on that. So here's how I think of it. I do believe that each of us naturally is born with a certain amount of bandwidth. It's whether it's conditioning from when we were children or as we get older. There are some of us who has a little bit larger bandwidth to tolerate and to deal with extra challenges than others. But either way, it's still it's still a challenge for you, me, for anyone else. I do believe that each challenge that is put before us, we are built for. Each challenge that we're built for. So as we're built for those challenges, there's something in those challenges that we need to learn from in order to get to the next level. Challenges, I believe, are designed specifically to get us to our greater purpose.
Yes, absolutely.
Oftentimes, why I say this is sometimes, say someone goes through a tragedy. Oftentimes, they wind up helping other people going through that same tragedy.
Yes.
So we are built for each challenge that we consume. However, working on ourselves and learning about ourselves and allows us to learn from those challenges.
Absolutely.
And to not allow those challenges to consume us, but allow ourselves to get through those challenges to a greater purpose.
Right. Right. Wait, we have to go to break. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Mernice, and I have a couple of other thoughts as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Viola Davis. Did you know that 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger? Growing up, I was one of those kids. but we can solve this. When we make breakfast happen for kids in our neighborhood, we have the power to end childhood hunger, create bigger, brighter school days, and healthier minds and bodies. Go to hungeris.org and lend your time or your voice.
We're hungry for more.
A message from the Albertsons Companies Foundation and the Entertainment Industry Foundation. So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
JBT 700 Miami Circle 30324. It's not a chain, it's a chain reaction.
Invest $49 a month at a real gym.
For more info, go to facebook.com/Jeans Body Tech.
All right, welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela. And before the break, because I've got two amazing ladies here who are movers and shakers in their communities in their own way. And I challenged the notion of God will not put more on you than you can bear. And I would love to hear, and let me just say, in my defense, I challenged it to say that it's not meant for us to bear these things alone, but that we should be helping one another. But I wanted to give Mernice an opportunity to respond to that. Did you have any thoughts on that, Mernice?
Oh, absolutely. It's so appropriate. I'm actually in a women's Bible study every morning, and we're studying the book of Job. And it's really about suffering and sovereignty. So I'm like, okay, this is really what I've been studying all week, and this is good. It's in my spirit already. And so what I believe is that it's, first of all, I think it's really dangerous to pull scripture verses out of context and then present them as the truth of God. And so I think that oftentimes you are correct. I never found that scripture either, that God won't put more of us than we can bear. I've never found that. However, it's very helpful to understand that there is a purpose in our suffering. Absolutely. And it has a higher purpose for us as an impact on our lives.
Yes.
And yes, we as the village, this is what I call it, my family, my friends, the village, we have to act with wisdom and with care and compassion. And so I think it's so oftentimes when we feel ill-equipped to help you through the process, if you're going through what I call your chaos moment or your chaos season, people they're not equipped, or they feel ill-equipped to help you get through it. And so that's why they go to those very cliche things. But I think we need to be very careful in that, being so cliche. You need to be acting with, or we should be acting with, more wisdom, more care, more comfort, rather than saying, let me pat you on the back and quote a scripture to you. How can I lighten this load for you?
Yes.
And suffering really reveals something, I think, about God's spirit to the world, because it's evidence that he's still there with us. He's valuable. He's trustworthy. And so us as a village, we need to, I think, take up that mantle of being valuable, trustworthy, and carrying compassion to someone who's going through that chaos moment, rather than going back to those cliche sayings, but really be honest and transparent.
Well, and I think what is hard for a lot of us is it's just inconvenient. It's inconvenient when somebody that we love and care about is down and depressed, because now now we have to deal with that, instead of just being willing to sit with them, because that sitting with them is awkward and it makes us feel a certain way. So at what point, and this is, I'm wrapping this into a question to you two, at what point were you able to, and what did it take for you to be able to lay aside your own discomfort in order to sit with somebody else in theirs?
Wow.
Yeah, I think with me is my I had to remove myself from the situation. So I get to the point where me as a variable in the situation, I have to remove myself from it, because at this point when somebody needs me, this is not about me, it's about them.
Right.
And you're right, it is awkward sometimes when you don't know what to say to someone for the suffering. It's the reason why I gave you that bracelet. Because sometimes, like at the studio, we have a bracelet, and of course, it has Stellar Power Yoga on it. And on the other side, it says, I beast through anything. Because people tell us their stories all the time. And there's that awkward moment. But we just want to hold their space for them. Sometimes just handing that bracelet and say, you can beast through it. You can get through it. Not saying that God's not going to put more than on you than you need to. No, it's just that you can get through these challenges. You can find it within your spirit to get through it. But in the meantime, I'm going to sit right here with you. I got you. I support you. I feel where you're coming from. You're not the only one. You're not by yourself.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And I really think, I agree with you, Miriam. I think you had to, for me, absolutely, I had to remove my personal being, because let's just be honest, it's messy.
Yeah.
Sometimes when our family is going through things, it's messy, it's difficult. But I think being present and showing up is the most important thing.
It's
it's
huge.
not always having to say something or to do something, but I agree with Miriam, to be present and to be able to sit with you in your mess.
Yes.
I think that speaks volumes.
And remove yourself from it, and being unselfish.
Right.
Yeah.
And that takes training. It takes practice. It takes, and I think the same way that we have to exercise our muscles to, to be able to run faster and be stronger, we have to, exercise our minds in the same way to be able to sit in our hearts, especially more so our hearts, to be able to sit with someone, to be able to prepare a meal when needed, to be able to watch those bad kids, even though you don't want to, because it takes exercise and practice to be able to become that person that is truly willing and able. And I have to admit, I'm working on it. I know that it's there. I know that I try to get better and better and better at it, because I know that it's not my natural inclination to want to go sit in pain with somebody. That's not an easy thing to do. So we're going to get into the research, and then I'm going to bounce back to this topic a little bit.
In the interest of science.
So today's science, or this hour, we're looking at the whole idea of the self and social behavior in differing cultural contexts. So, and this basically in a nutshell says that the way the person that we show to the world depends on the context of the cultural environment. And so this particular research, it was published in Psychological Review by Harry C. Triandis from the University of Illinois, Champaign. And what he's saying is there's three different aspects of self. There's the private self, the public self, and the collective self. The private self is the person, who you are by yourself, who you are when nobody's looking. So when nobody's looking, who I am is that person dancing naked in the living room, singing at the top of my lungs. I don't know that the public wants to see that, but that's who I am. So we have the private self. There's more to my private self than that. There's also the public self, and the public self is the one that you present to the world that's acceptable, that follows the rules, that kind of lives by the moral standard that the society has set. And then the last one is the collective self. And this is the self that is collaborative and works for the good of the community and the culture that you're a part of. When I say good in a relative way, because if you're the culture that you are a part of, let's say that it is a street gang, and their job is to maintain the territory of the street, and it is at the cost of lives of children and so forth. Your commitment, your collective commitment to this group will be for the good of the group, but not necessarily for the good of, humanity. So when I say, your collective is for the good of the culture, it depends on the culture you're a part of. And so if you are a part of a complex culture, the United States is what not just what I consider, but what this researcher considers a complex culture, meaning we have a mix of a lot of different cultures here. We have a variety of economic statuses here. We have a variety of careers. So it's not a monolithic culture. It's very complex. And the other kind of culture is individualism collectivism. So there's a range. This is a range of we're very individualistic versus we're very collectivistic, and then anywhere that falls in between is another way to identify a society. And the last one is a tight versus loose culture. Tight culture means that you are following the rules of the culture. So for example, the example given in this article is in Japan. If you go to the United States and you learn new practices or whatever, and then you go back to Japan and you're doing the things that you learned in the United States in some Japanese cultures, that's going to be frowned upon. The idea is that they have a very tight culture and they want to hold on tightly to those traditions. Loose culture, more like the United States as a whole, we have a lot of different traditions that are accepted within the larger United States culture. So what does this all mean? When people demonstrate the collective self, they're more collaborative, they're more likely to be influenced by the roles and the definitions of the larger society. And then we have, and then the more people are willing to demonstrate the private self, the more that their behavior can be accounted for exchange theory. Now, I haven't talked about exchange theory. Exchange theory is I do for me, you do for you, or I do for me, you do for me. We exchange. I won't do for you unless you do for me. What's the contract here? And what I see in the United States is that we primarily have this exchange theory thing happen. Now, we do have subcultures that are very much collective. So, for example, you have Jewish communities that are, when I lived in Milwaukee, there was very tight Jewish communities that were very collective because they wanted to preserve their culture. If you talk about the African American community, what is that? We don't necessarily have a tight set of traditions and values, and so we don't necessarily, we can't define our community from a tightly knit cultural standpoint. It's more loose because we have the African American community that is more hip hop. We have that is more into the arts. We have that is more into business and executive world. We have so there are distinctions within the African American community, and because of that, we have a combination of those who are more collective, and then we have those who are more private. The only I do for me, you do for you. So that is the research. There's so much more to this particular. I can go on and on. I could do a whole show just on this alone. But when we think about the work that we do, there's a couple of things I want you all, I want to discuss when we come back from the break. How can you get people who are in an individualistic, survival of the fittest type environment to act on the behalf of somebody else? If you're doing work and you want to get them to move forward and mobilize this work, if they're in an individualistic place, how do you get them to do that? And then how do you mobilize a tightly knit cultural group that's set in their ways to look at new approaches to solving a problem? And then last one is, how do you help an individual who is a part of a collectivist group, perhaps a negative collectivist group like a gang or sex trafficking ring, to take personal measures to save him or herself if they're immersed in that culture? I know that's a lot to think about. Think about it. We're going to break, and we'll be right back.
Leaders aren't born, they're made. And not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You've accidentally cut your daughter's bangs unevenly. Do you A, line things up a centimeter from her hairline?
Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
No. Sweatbands are so hot right now. Everyone's wearing them. Like that basketball player and that other basketball player.
B, get spiritual.
Mom, where did all the mirrors go?
A reflection could never capture our true selves.
Huh?
Beauty is within.
C, look on the bright side.
Less time blow drying, more time texting.
Or D, show empathy.
Mom, you really don't have
Ta-da! Twinsies.
I kinda love it. As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
When it comes to saving money, don't act like a baby. Goo goo gaga. Be the boss and make a budget.
I'm the boss, baby.
You're the boss of me.
I am the boss of you.
Are not.
M2.
Are not.
M2.
Need a little help?
Aren't you going to do any work?
I'm very busy delegating.
Create a personalized savings plan.
We can share.
You obviously didn't go to business school.
And get other tools and tips at feedthepig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
This is big business. This is the American way.
Station Network.
See ya.
Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and in the research, I just poured out a whole lot to both of you, to all of you. Primarily, what I'd like to know is, you're dealing with different people and different cultures in the work that you do. So, when you're dealing with somebody who has an individualistic mindset, it's all about me, how do you mobilize them to care more about what's outside of them? And then when you're dealing with a collectivist type mindset where I'm going to sacrifice myself for the culture, how do you get them to look beyond that for more healthy, solutions? Any thoughts?
I think from the first perspective, I think people respond to how they're treated often, especially early on in their early years. I think we are taught to be these different things, to be selfish, to be, to wait for someone to do something for us before we do it for them. We're taught this stuff. So I think my perspective on battling this unity, which is what I call it, is trying to unify people, is to show care. Show
Right.
care without looking for anything in return, which is almost doesn't exist, because sometimes I'll help someone or I'll say something to someone and I'll give someone general care and understanding. They're looking at me like, what's wrong with you?
I'm not used to
They're
this.
not used to it, no. And I'm like, no, for real, I don't want nothing back. Has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Between me and God.
Yeah.
I just
Wow.
find, I just find that I think each one teach one. I think we in order for us to change our environment, if we know better, we have to be that.
Yeah.
We have to be that first. Now, younger people, working on creating a nonprofit organization called Beyond Me Yoga for at-risk teens. Younger people, because I was one of those kids that grew up in New York, and it was tough neighborhoods, tough having to go to school, tough being able to finish school and everything. And one of the things that I've learned that helped me is removing me from my environment, so that I can see different areas that live differently than what I was accustomed to.
Right.
Which saved me. But I think in that perspective, showing up, if you know better, show up for people, show them that, okay, I can do this for you. You're not taking anything, I'm giving it to you. Because some people get twisted. They think that I'm getting over it. No, you're not.
No.
I'm actually giving it to you, but it's okay. They may not realize it right away, and instant gratification for us to realize that, get the appreciation that, from someone that we helped. If we're looking for that, we can forget it, because that's not what we should be in it for. It's just putting out, planting that seed and allowing it to flourish.
Right. Absolutely. Any thoughts, Mernice?
Yeah, I believe that we have to be the face of what we desire to see. And so I agree. It has to be that individual has to see the difference in me as their coach, as their mentor, as their whatever it is, as their friend, before they can desire and seek a change for themselves. And so I agree, it is about exposure, but it's also about being willing to open yourself up to a different perspective and a different and new possibility for yourself outside of your current environment. Absolutely. I think for me, leaving, I'm from South Georgia, and so live in a very small town. And so for me, it was leaving that environment. But I didn't necessarily go willingly. I had a lot of fears. I had a lot of, I was afraid of what I might find or who I might find out there, but it blossomed. I grew and blossomed into the rose of the woman I am today. And so I think when you're working with someone, an individual that's in that collectiveness, you have to help them see the individual on the other side of the mirror that is yet to be born.
Right.
And so, I think it's about showing up. It is. And then expecting nothing, absolutely, in return.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
I'm here because you are here.
And, you know, I think earlier you mentioned about being, in order to if you're selling something to whatever you're selling, to humanity, love, care, understanding. Maybe it's a product. I don't know. You have to be able to live it yourself and do it yourself. And I think, especially kids these days, younger people, they're smart. If you're not doing it, you're telling me how to live, but you don't, look at what you're doing.
Right.
And we can't go with that old premise of, don't, do what I say, not what I do. We need to see our, we need to see kids are smart, technology. They need to see it, even adults, they need to see that you have accomplished. Like now, I have my own business. I can stand in my own forum, in my own brick and mortar and say, this is what it took me to do it. Was it easy? No.
Right.
But at least I have something, so if you doubt me, you can't doubt me because I've already proven it.
Yeah.
So we have to show what we're doing before we can speak it a lot of times because we have to prove it. It's unfortunate it's that way, but anybody can share anything, but I think we're more believable when we have lived it and conquered it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, we're going to go to break, and then we come back. We're going to continue this conversation, so stay with us on the Live Exchange.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
When it comes to saving money, don't act like a baby.
Goo goo gaga.
Be the boss and make a budget.
I'm the boss, baby.
You're not the boss of me.
I am the boss of you.
Are not.
M2.
Are not.
M2.
Need a little help?
Aren't you going to do any work?
I'm very busy delegating.
Create a personalized savings plan.
We can share.
You obviously didn't go to business school.
And get other tools and tips at feedthepig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Keeping your balance with Dr. Pamela. Dr. Pamela. Dr. Pamela.
Okay, so this week's balance challenge is for you to love someone to life. Now, we have given you all examples of how this can be done. You can sit with someone, you can listen to someone, there's a lot of things that you can do. And I'm going to read this quote from Elizabeth Gilbert. And it says, "Those of us who are warm and dry and safe and well-fed must show up for those who are cold and wet and endangered and hungry." That is a rule of life. Every ethical and religious and spiritual tradition in the world agrees on that rule. So I want you to love someone to life this week. Now, in light of the race wars, the riots that have been going on for the past week, this isn't new. It happened this week. It's happened before. They are promising that it's going to happen again. They're looking at protests in Washington, D.C., and San Francisco, and different places. The question that always comes to me, no matter what you want to say about politics or no matter what stance you have, what political party you're a part of, does it honor human dignity? does it honor, and when I was working at Marquette, I was in charge of multicultural affairs, and it was really hard because, talking about race is always challenging, and there's a lot of people who don't want to hear about it, and there's other people who are receptive and have been hurt by their own experiences. So my thing was, part of the mission at Marquette was cherish the dignity of each individual. And that's what I stand by. So whatever argument you want to have about whether or not, the white supremacists have a right to speak and all of that, okay, fine. But I still stand by the idea that we need to cherish the dignity of each individual. So in the whole idea of loving someone else to life this week, how can you cherish the dignity of another individual outside of yourself? Any thoughts? I know I can just keep talking, so I have to stop and make sure I give you. I can go on one with this topic.
Oh, go ahead, Miriam. I'm sorry.
Well, for me, I do this every single day, 2 or 3 times a day, as I teach the classes. Even when people walk past the studio, and they talk and they have a conversation, whether they're in the class or walking past the studio and we talk, I'm going to give them the moment of being valued. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it could be an awkward, like somebody just standing there looking at you. Well, oftentimes, that's the problem with our society. Nobody's paying attention. Everybody's kind of running away, and we're not valuing one another. Mm-hmm. And I think with what I love about the studio is we have so many different cultures that come through the doors. And at first, sometimes, we'll have, some of us are in there and we're like, okay, I'm feeling kind of funny. And then you'll have Caucasian, then you have Indian. So we have so many, I'm feeling kind of funny. I don't know how to act. But by the time we're done with class, everyone has let their guards down. They don't have anything to prove. They feel safe in the environment. And then it gives me an opportunity to hold someone's space. So I get a lot when people finish class, they walk up to me and they say, Miriam, you're really powerful. It meant so much. I can tell it means from the bottom of your, what you say means from the bottom of your heart. And I say, yes, that is true. And because you recognize it, that means it's in you too.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. You recognize what's
good.
in you. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe it's about connecting and recognition. I love the power of connection. And that may just be for a moment, or it may be for several moments, but I make it a practice of the individual that I'm connecting with to be fully present with them. Yes. I have this saying, and I know you guys have heard it often, I see you. Yes. And that's all we truly, really want. I believe as humans, we want to be seen. Absolutely. And so we are so often distracted. Social media, cell phones ringing, all this, everything's going on. But can you just take a moment to be present with that person that you're with right at that moment? I think that is more powerful than anything. The power of connecting is beautiful.
One of the things that hurts my heart is when I read, some of the threads, and I've been trying to just stay away from them, but, and it's not that I don't want to hear other people's opinions, but when it turns into hateful, I can't do it. There was a woman, she was a Caucasian woman, and with all of her heart, she was trying to express her empathy for the situation, and she was blasted by the people on the feed. Yes. What do you know? You have privilege, you're this and you're that, and I get the pain I totally get it. But at the same time, we're now inflicting pain on somebody else. And, and it I'm not sure how to resolve that, other than.
I know what you mean.
We have to see each other.
I know what you mean. And I think I mentioned that earlier when we first opened, we have been segregated so many years. Segregation is nothing new. It's still there, and a lot. But to segregate ourselves is what we do when we do things like that and come back with anger. You are pushing yourself away. If we put ourselves in the situation and acknowledge that it exists and allow ourselves to be this is how I think of it, like in the military. Typically in the military, if you don't have a strategy to win, you don't go in. So what is your winning? What is it that you want to win at? Do you want to win at a fight, verbal fight, or do you want to win at letting this person understand your heart? So if you have a strategy to win, and your winning strategy is to let that person understand your heart and where you're coming from and your pain, why would you? You can't do it with verbal. Attacks.
That's not going to happen if you shut them down. You know what, you guys? We're at the end of the show.
Wow.
This went too fast.
That went quickly.
It went very quickly. But I want to make sure they can find you both. So can you quickly tell us how you both can be found? We'll start with you, Mernice.
Oh, awesome. Absolutely. To find out more about me and what I do, please join me at my website, and that's MerniceOliver.com. And Mernice is Mernice. I have to spell it every day. So. But you can also find me on all of the social media channels. I am Coach Mernice Oliver on Facebook. We have a Facebook group called Calm in the Chaos with Coach Mo.
Wow.
I'm on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. And coming up soon, I'm super excited. My podcast will be launching in September. Calm in the Chaos.
I
it's
love
called
it.
Calm in the Chaos with Coach Mo.
Oh, that's great. Okay, thank you. And Miriam?
Thank you.
Okay, and my studio is located, Stellar Power Yoga is located at 3300 Cobb Parkway in Atlanta, Georgia. It's in Vinings. Our website is www.stellar-poweryoga.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram. We have meetup groups. My phone number, it's available. It's on the website. Feel free to call me at 704-909-9569 if you have some questions or you're interested in finding out more about yoga and how it can benefit your life. I'll be more than happy to talk to you personally.
All right. Thank you, ladies. We're going to have you both
It's
back.
a pleasure.
We got to keep talking about this stuff. And thank you so much for joining us on the Live Exchange. We meet here every Thursday, 11 to 1. Next week, I will be joined by Glenn Murray and Tarshish Jordan, two business owners who are going to be talking about the art of self-promotion. I'm Dr. Pamela, and remember, love yourself to life, dance in the dark, and dream wildly unrealistic dreams. Have a great week.